Hey guys, thank you for tuning in for another wonderful video that I talk a bit about competing. I am interested in competing bodybuilding wise. I don't know 100% if that's what's going to happen. My goal is somewhere in the end of 2020 to do it. So it is quite a bit of a longer, probably a bit more casual prep than most people do because it is such an extended period of time. Technically, I've already been doing it for 10 months now. So 2 years is a long time to be grinding these things out, but when you have a goal, you really want to do it. Quick disclaimer, this is exclusively about me. If you hear me give advice or anything like that, I want you to realize that these are things that work for me. They may or may not work for you. If you are interested in doing something similar to what I'm doing, I recommend you find yourself a professional that can help you with it because every person is very different, and some of these things are incredibly important that can lead to future health. So make sure that you are talking to somebody who knows how to handle you for you. I already have mine, now go find yours. Why I want to compete? Well, very much, we could put it into perspective, shall we? To begin, I think it's important to know that growing up, I wasn't really a competitive individual. I was in many sports, but I just never went to the games. I maybe went to a couple across the 4 or 5 things that I trained for. I don't know, as a kid, I thought that going to sports was supposed to be fun, But it's competing, being like really good at something wasn't really something I was into. If anything, drawing was much more my strong suit growing up, and I didn't even like people knowing that I was good at it. I was probably one out of the 3 best people that drew in my whole high school or whatever you want to call it. And I just didn't want anyone to see my stuff because I just didn't really, it was for me. It wasn't for anyone else. If they did see it and they liked it, cool. But I just wasn't interested. So coming back to today, I started my weightlifting journey like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, somewhere like that. It depends on what your definition of starting is. But I fell in love with it maybe about 3 or 4 years ago when I aspired to become a personal trainer. So I started to become I studied to become a personal trainer before I actually had a personal trainer myself. It's just that I really love doing these things and want to help other people do it too, because I know how frustrating it can really be to be stuck somewhere, no matter how much work you put in. And that being said, I hadn't even seen the results that I wanted until 5 or 6 months ago. So that's a long time to be working toward these goals. And I fell in love with weightlifting during that time, and even heart health. I like seeing my bars go up. I like seeing, like, on your fitness apps, if you've got a watch or something, it'll probably have your VO2 max, or it's your heart health, the oxygen that you are able to pump through your blood that makes it so that you have better endurance and recovery. There's a lot of things that go into that, but I personally really like looking at that. So I'm now here, but I started way down at the bottom and I stayed there. I probably stayed there at the bottom of poor, for like a good 6 months to a year. But it's going up. It would tell me that I'm estimated to be like up here somewhere if I keep going at the pace I'm going or meet the weight that I want to get. So that is why I personally really love cardio too. It actually became my favorite thing to do. When I go to the gym, I always look forward to doing the cardio. The weights are kind of the thing that are hard for me because I have to deal with so many people and equipment and organization and everything. It's a lot. Gym anxiety is still something that I deal with. It never goes away, at least not for me. I have to work on it, so that's why cardio is so much easier now. I can pick a machine, I can go, but weights is a bit more intense in terms of building up the wherewithal to do it. But I fell in love with weightlifting and what you could do with your body. When I started my journey, I didn't think of it in terms of like shape shifting, shape molding, body molding. And it makes sense now, but I didn't know that if you want a bigger butt, you just grow a bigger butt. if you want a tiny waist, you grow your shoulders, your back, and your butt. And if you want, whatever you want, you can pick aside from your boobs, unfortunately. Sorry, ladies. That's just something that you have to grow with, I guess, and hope that it doesn't fall off. I think the most alluring thing about bodybuilding as a competition for me is that it's a very much a compete with yourself sport. Even though you can place higher or lower or, winning first place, these people don't come back and do it again because they won first place. They do it because they themselves are improving every step of the way. That can be said with all competitive sports, activities, extracurriculars, what do you want to call them, hobbies. But this one spoke to me because I feel like I'm actually getting really good at it in comparison to where I was before. And that doesn't take a lot. It's just do your research, learn how to do it right, and then apply it to yourself. But I was never a very physical person. I excel at reading and writing and drawing. Those are all very pencil to paper things. So doing bodybuilding is like, whoa, out there for me. So I'm glad I can grow in that way, and I want to grow more. And doing personal training, I was really passionate about it, but I didn't feel like, and I didn't look the part of a personal trainer. I was so close to getting my certification, and I was studying really hard, and I read the book all the way through, and then I would look in the mirror and wasn't seeing any fat coming off. My muscles were getting bigger, my clothes were getting tighter, but I couldn't get the fat to come off. And I was like, how am I supposed to train these people and how to do that if I can't do it for myself? I stopped. I gave up the last couple months and failed my first test by like 3%, I think it was. And I haven't retaken it yet because I just haven't put the time into relearning what I need to. I mean, a lot of it stuck with me, but when it comes to testing, you kind of have to know your P's and Q's pretty well. I think it's even good because that way there's a lot of information that's still stuck with me, and then going back and recapping it and relearning it will just solidify it even more in my mind. But whether or not competing is for you, at least in the bodybuilding part, depends on how you feel about yourself. Don't do it because you want to be a stick-thin figure that if you think you can look that way all the time, I'm here to tell you that's not a reality. Why it resonates with me is because I'm on a mission to conquer 3 things: body, mind, and spirit. And my body, this is my body part, and that's a big one. And battling with self-image and fat for so many years has been a huge, huge deal for me, and it would be incredible for me to feel like I have mastered that craft. So I may compete once and never want to do it again. That's fine. I will at least know that I could do it and then move on with more important things in my life. It's not something that you do and then stay there. Bodybuilding competitors have become masters of taking off the fat and then putting the fat back on, and then taking it off again and putting it back on, all while also building muscle sustainably. But it takes a lot of determination, mental health. You have to be in a good place, because once you reach that low deficit, it's not a good place to be. You don't feel good. You are tired. You're sleeping, you're napping, you're hungry all the time. I'm hungry all the time now. I mean, it's getting better. If I'm on a roll, then it's easy. But when you are used to eating more, if you're freely eating, then it can be really hard to reel that back in, because that's one thing that a lot of people use as a control mechanism. I did it growing up. I felt like that was one of the things that I had control over growing up in maybe a poverty type situation. And so I think that's why binge eating and emotional eating was such a huge thing for me. And now I'm getting better at breaking that. It's still hard, but that's the flavor of life, right? Is improvement and getting better all the time. But if you want to know more about my plan with competing, let me know. Right now, nobody's watching these, so I'm not really worried about it, but it's cool to talk about it when I think about, like, why I do what I'm doing. It builds my resolve even more, my why. We all need one. But if you made it through, thanks much, and I'll see you next time.